You're listening to theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
It's a podcast. It's a magazine. No, it's a podzine.
Hello and welcome to another podzine on theoutdoorstation.co.uk. Faithful listeners will know that Andy Howell and I have had a couple of big days out this year, where we wandered off to do some backpacking and live off the land or sea in the process. Regular listeners will know we were grateful for dried food. However, these trips did remind us of how easy it is to forget, or never even know for that matter, what you can and can't eat to survive and make yourself comfortable. A few days ago, the UK's first Bushcraft magazine, aptly called Bushcraft, dropped onto my doorstep, and I've been glued to the 64 pages of content, dreaming of living in the woods ever since. So I gave the editor and owner of bushcraftuk.com, Tony Bristow, a call to see if he could outline what's been going on in the bushcraft community these last few years.
Well, probably the last 5 years would be the easiest, because I think that that's when things have really exploded in a way. I think prior to that, bushcraft was quite an isolated activity for people, which would have generally been described as survival back then. Over in North America, it's always been woodcraft, and there's been quite a thriving movement over there. But in the UK, it's only since really the BBC took on Ray that people have started going, oh, bushcraft, I recognise that. Oh, it's not quite survival. And it's moved on since then. So I'd definitely say that Ray's been the pioneer of it. And that's allowed people to, I don't know, in a way, realise what they're doing.
Do you think that his presence has given it a sort of a less military sort of presence?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think it's softened the image of being outdoor and doing survival-y type things by making it an everyday activity. In a way of life, being aware of what's around you, where survival pushing you straight into a situation that's a really harsh situation. Bushcraft's about a softer situation where you put yourself into it and you learn and grow from it.
I've often wondered really whether if you look back sort of 10 years or so, you had the sort of traditional backpacking community, and then you obviously had the niche market that you were talking about at that stage, and the military offshoot, that people felt that it was one extreme or the other. There wasn't any middle ground, which is almost a middle ground that the sort of the old traditional countrymen, country people would have taken for granted, but actually has disappeared over the years.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And when I describe it to people, I tend to say you've got walkers that want to go from point A to point B, and they want to do that in a certain amount of time, and they just go for it. And then you've got the survival guys that are really hardcore combats and all that sort of thing. And the bushcraft is right in the middle and overlaps into both, where we want to get from A to B sometimes, but we take it on a slower path, and if the day gets late and we think, oh, let's just camp out tonight, we're comfortable doing that. And then we shy away from all the military connotation of the DPM, and even though we still use mottled colours, the greens and browns and stuff, because it seems more in keeping with outdoors.
Ray's been obviously brought it to the fore of people's minds, and as soon as people start to think of outdoors, it seems to fall into one or two camps, either sort of the hiking community, or as you say, or the bushcraft community. Do people contact you and with any concerns about where they can do it in this country? Because obviously, when Ray's been doing his programs, they've been from Norway and established outdoors sort of communities, whereas in the UK we're a bit precious about our land and access, aren't we?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most asked questions, actually. It's asked on the website, the forums a lot. I get emails and even phone calls about that, saying, where can I go and do this? And I think that, again, this is where Ray and the popularisation of bushcraft on TV has helped. because you can approach a farmer and you can go, okay, you've got some woodland, can I use it, please? I do bushcraft. And he knows you're not, that you're going to try and be comfortable in the land and not abuse it, sort of thing. But yeah, it's definitely hard. It's hard for people to get out on land.
Do you find, I know that through the forum and the website you've got, that there's obviously a lot of commercial people offering their services. I mean, we keep mentioning Ray, but he's one of many people that are out there in this industry, I suppose it is now. Do people sort of go on one of these courses first just to gain confidence and then branch out on their own, or do you find people sort of heading out and doing, as you say, contacting a local landowner and then trying it for themselves?
Well, I think traditionally, if we were talking 5 years ago, it would be a case of most people would either go out on their own in small bits of woodland that they know in their local areas, or they would go on courses. And now, a lot more people get together. So we facilitate lots of meetups around the country where people can get together and practice bushcraft skills on land. And so I think it's shifted from an inability to do things other than individually in a small way to a larger scale thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I was just wondering, as you were saying that, about where the sort of the younger generation sit in all this, because looking at sort of teenagers and younger these days, they don't seem to have access, due to health and safety and the rules and regulations, to go and explore the outdoors and make it less fearful.
Yeah, I think that's a big issue, and I think this is where, like with the access rights in Scotland and stuff, there's a lot more freedom to go and enjoy the countryside. And I know it's a balance between things, between ownership and access. There are a lot of schools and organisations that are pushing harder and harder to allow youth into wilderness areas, and to use that as part of their education and growing experiences, which is fantastic. There's some schools that are specifically dedicated to that sort of thing, and they take even some of the harder youth from the schools that, how do I describe this? That have difficulties in an academic situation, and help them by using bushcraft and outdoor skills to gain confidence and a bit of self-worth, and make the most of their lives.
Well, certainly, I mean, not everybody is a born academic, and there are a lot of very practical people who are much more comfortable in that environment, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely.
Adding in to the mix, I suppose, there's also the Hugh Fernley-Whittingstall type living off the land gourmand type experience. Do you touch on, do you have many members that touch on that sort of enthusiasm? Yes,
definitely. In many respects, it's a core part of bushcraft, because with being comfortable outdoors is the ability to recognise flora and fauna and what you can eat and that sort of thing. And so that's a very key part, I would say, is that ability to make the most from the wild larder.
And obviously, we must mention, we will do several times, of course, but your website is bushcraftuk.com, and as part of that, I know you've got I've just dropped it on the floor. You've got a Bushcraft magazine, which is a really good read. I've really thoroughly enjoyed the latest issue that you dropped over to me. What's the response to this been like?
It's been very good. The members have taken it up very well, and it's gaining more and more popular, wider recognition. Is going into more shops, and distribution is on the horizon and stuff like that. So it's been very well received. Everyone thoroughly enjoys it, and.
Yeah, I was going to say that there seems to be, reading it, just like the backpacking community, there definitely seems to be two levels. There's the guys that are totally minimalist and want to keep it that way and will do everything they can in their power to keep it that way. And there are those that obviously seem to have a fairly good size rucksack to take all the gear with them.
Yes. There's definitely... The idea is to be comfortable out of doors, and so for some that is being really light and easygoing sort of thing, and others that's taking the kitchen sink with them.
So we're talking about the community now. I know there's a lot of people that I mix with, sort of say the hiking, backpacking type people, who'd probably like to, for a change, do something like this and gather or go along to one of these group get-togethers and slow down rather than covering the miles, but actually just sort of learn a bit more about their environment. Yeah. Are there many of these people just organising social gatherings together? Yes, there's lots.
There's every month there's probably 2 or 3 get-togethers of groups around the country, all over the country, from Scotland right the way down, well, actually Scotland into Europe. And anyone's welcome to them. And it's comfortable, relaxing, set up. And then if you want to know something specific, people share their knowledge, or you share some of yours, and you make things and cook together and that sort of thing. It's a very good social and learning experience.
And what are you finding the feedback from the actual landowners to be? Because presumably a lot of this is done on private land.
Yes, very good. I can only recall one instance in the last 4 or 5 years where a landowner has got perturbed about something that's happened. Generally, the landowners invite the Bushcraft fraternity back because they appreciate how clean the land's left and that sort of thing. And they're a really friendly bunch of guys. So very well indeed, yeah.
The Potsy.
So tell me, Tony, I mean, what's your background? How did you get involved in this industry as such?
Oh, well, I came from a craft background, cabinet making and stuff like that. And so I'm interested in all the wood side of things. I've always enjoyed the outdoors, and I started the website up after I went on one of Woodlaw's courses, and came off the course, and a few months later lost track of someone I'd met on the course, and I just thought that was a bit daft, that there was nowhere to stay in touch with people. And so in a way I transferred my energies from all the outdoor crafty stuff into the website and getting that going. And on the way, I've done IT management and school teacher for design and technology, and then now this full time.
And you've obviously got the interest in it to do that.
Yes, yeah. It's a lovely subject because it's so broad. Like we were saying earlier about with youth-friendly wooden stall stuff, the food side of things you can do, or you can carve things, canoeing, open canoeing, wilderness travelling, all that sort of thing is all available. And so if you get a bit bored with one thing, you can go and do some leather work or go and do something else and just pick up on all your skill base. It's a great.
Yeah. I'm just flipping through the magazines you're talking here and seeing some of the pictures of the people doing various skills and so on. And there seems to be quite an age range. Is there a similar social background to your members and your customers and your readers and so on, or are they fairly diverse?
The main core is guys in their 20s through to their 40s and 50s. But there is a very broad range of people that enjoy getting out and doing bushcraft. We hold a few events each year that we organise, and to those we have loads of families. We had an event in July this year, and we had about 30 families come to that with their children, and that was a 5-day event. And so there's this huge range: wives, husbands, children. It's great.
Yeah, excellent. Well, it's obviously fun for all the family, and we thoroughly recommend people to look on the website and get some more details, which we'll, as I say, mention once or twice, I'm sure. But obviously, any community, we're all the same. We're all gear freaks at one stage or the other. And I noticed that there's certainly, from my experience recently, there's been a lot more teepee-type tents appearing and teepee shelters, and obviously the parachute shelter is one of the key shelters in the group gathering in the Bushcraft community.
Yeah.
But I also noticed you give a fair space to the hammock-type variety as well as tarps. Is there a specific sort of range of gear that somebody should have to come along to one of these socials?
No, not at all. It's one of those things where lots of people feel comfortable in a tent because that's what they're used to. So, and I would use a tent if it's appropriate. I enjoy using a hammock because you're more exposed to what's around you. Earlier this year, I was in a gorgeous beechwood in my hammock, and you can just lie there in the mornings watching the animals walk around, and it gives you that closeness. The big teepees are great for space and easy to put up. And so it's just the whole idea of the Bushcraft is whatever's practical for the situation. And so you'll probably find that Bushcrafters have got a teepee, and they've got a hammock, and they've got a tent, and there is hoarding kit like anyone else does.
Oh, good man.
Although saying that, there are some that definitely go down the more purist, I'm going to build a shelter route sort of thing, which is the other alternative. And you can build a very cozy shelter that will keep you much warmer than a tent. So it's that mixture of kit and skills.
Yeah, it sounds good. And are the people that do it, are they passionate all year round, or are they sort of springtime, summertime bushcrafters, as it were?
No, I think there's a good mixture, actually. There's definitely some that prefer the summer and the warmth, because as anyone that goes out on the hills will know, the rain and the wind can be quite demoralising. One advantage we have in a way is that you were usually in woods, and so you can find shelter and stuff. But yeah, a year-long broad spectrum. The events where people get together, those meetups, they happen all year through.
With the advent of websites generally and forums and community groups, and obviously yours as a hub of something like this activity, do you find there's been a change in the understanding and also the type of people that are coming to it? Because I presume, obviously, when the first the TV series went out and it started to get some notoriety, that was the biggest advertisement it could possibly get as a pastime. But I presume now that the individual niche web forums and information that's available all around the world on the internet, has that changed the influx of interest that you've had in the magazines and on the website and so on?
Yes, I think so. I think purely because there's such an awareness now, and with that awareness, people allocate terminology. So, like when you hear Bushcraft now, you can apply it to, oh, that's what Ray Mears does, and that's what so-and-so does, and Bear Grylls, he does a bit of Bushcraft and survival. And there's all these plethora of people that are on television now, especially with the extra channels you can get with the Sky TV and all that sort of thing. There's lots of programs that promote being outdoors in a wild sort of way, in the wilderness. And so I think people's perceptions, they find going online much more acceptable, they find using the websites much more acceptable, and then the magazine side of things, they go, oh great, it's great to have a printed version I can take with me.
There does seem to be a bit of a change, doesn't there? A wind change in regards to magazines. They seem to be losing their popularity in certain areas as if they were the original source material. But if the interest, shall we say, came out of, like yours, came out of a website and a forum and has grown into a magazine, the magazine seems to be gaining popularity.
Yes, I think so. I think people get... I think they get something out of both in a way. And so by feeding them one, it encourages the other. And so having the website, and they read about other people doing things, and they communicate with each other, and they see different articles and how they can make things. And then having it in their hands where they can go outdoors and do it, they like that connection, and it allows it to feed on.
Do you find there's sort of much of the YouTube interest coming through at all? People trying things in different parts of the world and saying, hey, I've tried this out and this works and this doesn't?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, definitely a bit. It's a hard one, the YouTube thing, in a way, because people like to be quite creative. And so, in a way, it can be misleading, some of the stuff that's on there. But the general use of it for people showing other people that they're out and about, and that is excellent.
I'm certainly finding from experience of these doing these podcasts that the what it does seem to do is encourage people to get out a little bit more often. Sort of just remind them that it's still there almost, to say, well, you're not doing anything this weekend, go for a walk, and and people feel inspired. And I'm just wondering with your specific area of interest, whether that's you've actually witnessed the same results.
I don't think it's had that much influence initially. I think, if anything, photography and that side of things has had more up to date. Websites like Flickr and things, where people can go out and take photographs and put them up and discuss them. But saying that, on the video side of things, we're soon going to have video capabilities, and so we're going to encourage that, because I do think it's an avenue that does encourage people.
Talking of video, obviously mentioning Ray yet again, but presumably he's not the only one that's produced a series of videos on all the sort of skills, or some of the skills that one could apply out in the bush, as it were. Is there anything else that you sell on your site that you recommend?
There's a few. Yeah, other than Ray Mears, there's a few independent video series, and then the old Lofty Wiseman series. I think you can still get hold of there. And you've got Bear Grylls and the new stuff that's coming out, Tribe and all that sort of thing, where they're not necessarily UK-based, but more international.
Yeah, the gourmand aspect of it appeals no end, with the Hugh Fearnley-Whittinstall sort of aspect, and then you've got, as you say, the Bear Grylls way of doing things, when there seems to be a bit more extreme. Personally, I quite like to catch something and eat it if I'm able to, but I think I'd starve, if I'm being honest. But you mentioned Lofty Wiseman there, and I've got one of his old books, and obviously there are the newer books and newer videos that have come out, but the skills are still the same. I'm just fascinated to see just how much the interest in them has grown.
Yes, they are the same, and I think, and this is where the survival and the bushcraft side of things overlap quite considerably. And the way they're presented, I think, has changed, and they're a lot more real to people now. Whereas a generation or two ago, our parents and grandparents practiced a lot of the skills themselves. They went out and they foraged like Hugh Fearnley does, and picked things off the beach and took them home and cooked them, and they knew how to butcher and all that sort of thing. And for some, it's rediscovery of childhood, and others, it's new discovery, where they can practice skills that we've all known for a long time and have been practiced for a long time, but they're new to them.
Just as an aside, really, it is interesting how basic these skills can be, and obviously in this modern world, how easy it is to dismiss them as being, an enthusiast's hobby. And yet, here we are in the heart of Worcestershire here, and we had the terrible floods of only a few months ago, which has now disappeared completely. But during that time, there were people without water for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And it focused their minds on actually, can they get to the supermarket, and can the food get to the supermarket in the first place, and what was fresh and what you could eat and what you couldn't eat and drink and so on. It was, although I'm not suggesting people would have rushed out into the woods to replenish the larder, it did make them think how much we take supply and demand for granted in that case.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I don't think there's many bushcrafters that change their whole lives and forage for all their food and make all their own clothes and that. But it does help with an awareness of where we are in the world, and our reliance on supermarkets and stuff like that. And it encourages us to be a bit more self-aware we can eat this and we can eat that, and we would encourage people to supplement if they can, and so they learn. And all it is just being comfortable again, rather than reliant.
Well, with October upon us now and sort of autumn, I do like going out foraging for mushrooms and so on.
Yes.
But I take so many books with me that just to double check and triple check I'm picking the right thing. But when you get something and you can cook it fresh, it's a wonderful experience.
Oh, definitely. You've got the fun. I mean, my children have been out practically every day getting apples and blackberries and all sorts of things, and bringing them home and going, can we cook crumbles, and can we do this, and can we do that? And it's great. I think it gives us more value to our lives because we're doing something for ourselves and interacting with nature, and helps our pockets as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and gives kids something very positive to spend their time doing as well.
Yeah, I mean, to have your children excited about going out and picking fruit and being adventurous and discovering what's around them, it's fantastic, rather than wanting to sit playing computer games all day and things like that. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more on that. Okay, well, now, what I'd like you to do is sell me your website and magazine, because there are a lot of people that are going to be listening to this, who I'm sure will be very keen to find out more and learn as much as they can to add to their outdoors knowledge. So tell me all about the website and the range of things you offer.
Okay, here's a sales pitch. The website is for anyone, basically, that's interested in the outdoors. If no matter what their preference is, whether it's walking or mountain climbing or just climbing or canoeing or whatever, and it will just add an aspect to being outdoors that they might be missing. And we've got articles and reviews of kit that's slightly more specific to bushcraft and broader range, but the articles cover skills on everything from making your own cordage, building shelters, finding water and purification, navigation, all that sort of thing. And many of them are the same sorts of things that we do when we've got loads of kit, but it's a bit more self-reliant. And so instead of taking some paracord, we can make cord, but we usually take some paracord as well. And we use knives and axes sometimes, and they're some of the key tools. And there's this great community that is more than willing to share knowledge with anyone on the forums, and that's got a plethora of subjects in there, through what to eat, how to set up tents and tarps, through to where are we going to meet, and all that sort of thing. So there is something for everyone there, and the magazine is a reflection of that. It has things on how to do things and make things, advice and tips, some cartoons, there's some humour in there. So yeah, overall, it's there for people to enable people to get more from being outdoors. And
I presume it's free, obviously, to join the forums, but the magazine is an additional subscription, yeah?
Yeah, the magazine is a subscription, and the forums are free. All the information's on there free. We do have a subscription to help support the website. And then for that you get benefits, like you can advertise in the classified section, and there's a forum just for those members, and they get discounts in some stores like Cotswold Camping and stuff. But if you want to go on there and have a look, then more than free to do so, and there's no catches to it at all, and anyone that wants to sign up can get the newsletter and benefit from that. Excellent.
Now, here we are sort of towards the end of 2007. 2008 is looming.
Yeah.
I heard a rumour, which I know that you've heard as well, that there's going to be a lot more interest in the bushcraft area in the high street, in the main high street outdoors retailers next year. So could you look into the crystal ball and see what your sort of how it's going to go over the next 12 months or so?
I think that there's definitely going to be more popularity with bushcraft. I think it's going to become more mainstream, and in a way, bushcraft isn't necessarily a term that should narrow things; it should broaden things. And so someone doing bushcraft, if they don't become a bushcrafter and they're not a walker anymore, they're a walker and they practice some bushcraft when they're out. And I think that's going to be adopted more in the retail industry. And that's going to be helped along by more programs and books and things like the magazine and websites and stuff. And I think retailers are clicking on to the fact that bushcraft is a new way of approaching the outdoors.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that there's going to be more awareness once the camouflage aspect is reduced a bit more, toned down, just to stop that military feel to it?
Yes, I think so. I think in many respects that's a key thing, because in this day and age where there's lots of knife laws and gun laws and stuff like that, there's an association there, whether rightly or wrongly there is. And so be able to say to normal walkers, okay, you've got your fleece jacket on and your trousers and you go out there, but you can still do these activities, and then for that to be proactively encouraged, I think it's going to go down that route. And if it didn't, then I don't think it would be as successful.
I mean, I think it'd be worthwhile just mentioning here that one of the reasons that you don't see many of the bushcrafters wearing, should we say, accepted technical outdoor fabric, which you see on the hills most of the time, is because obviously near flames, they're not particularly sensible. One spark and it'll go straight through them. So consequently, the older, sort of more traditional materials and clothing tend to be more accepted, don't they?
Yeah, that's right. If you're around fires and stuff, we tend to go for more natural materials, wools and cottons and stuff like that. I suppose the technical material that we would use often would be ventile, if we're not actually wearing wool. And ventile is a highly water-repellent fabric, much more, it's a natural fabric. But on the other hand, not all of the activities use fire. So there's often technical clothing that comes along with it. If it's pouring down with rain, then we'll stick a Gore-Tex jacket on.
In fact, I'm glad you mentioned Ventile, because I read that article. I was fascinated by that piece on Ventile by John Fenner in the magazine.
Yeah.
And I'd not really come across it before. I just assumed all the sort of traditional dark green clothing was from one sort of manufacturer. But it's a very, very technical fabric, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's long staple cotton, and it's very, very tightly woven. And as water hits the outside of it, the fibres swell and they seal. The RAF use it for immersion suits, and it's used a lot now. It's a very popular fabric in extreme circumstances. Arctic explorers often use Ventile and the like. And for us, it's a material that is pretty waterproof, although not completely. After a few hours of torrential rain, it will start to saturate. But if it does get damaged, it's very, very easily repairable. It's very breathable, and it's very, very tough.
I was also impressed on just how light it was as well, because it's not I mean, they come in different thickness, different densities, don't they? But the light version for a shirt, a general outdoor shirt, struck me as being quite a practical piece.
Yeah, it is. It's a very it's a very good material. Like you say, it comes in different weights, so you can get some really heavy stuff. But things like shirts and those lighter garments are quite comparable to some of the technical fabrics. Yeah,
and I think we've got to warn people before they go dashing off to their army surplus. It isn't cheap, is it?
No, and that's the I think the main problem with it is it's a very expensive fabric. And the thing in its defence is that you get what you pay for. And so you can pick up a Ventile jacket for a couple of £100, and so it's quite comparable with a technical jacket. And generally it will last longer, but they're appropriate for different situations.
Yeah, I think it's. I'm reaching for my credit card here. I've got to be careful. It's.
I can sell you a jacket.
Well, Tony, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for taking the time and giving us a bit of background on bushcraftuk.com. And I wish you all the best. And I'm sure you'll get a lot of interest, if nothing else, to have a look at the website and see what you're all about. I think there's some really interesting, some valuable information there that, as you say, spreads the knowledge and helps people enjoy the outdoors more.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about.
Indeed. Indeed. Well, thanks very much for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Bob.
If you've got any news or events you'd like us to cover on the Podzine, then contact us at The Outdoor Station. The address is info@theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
Bringing you more about the outdoors world. Call our voicemail service now. 020 8133 9434.
As Tony says, you can find out more information and also contribute as well at bushcraftuk.com. I hope to be spending a couple of weekends in the woods foraging for food over the next couple of months, and of course I'll take my recorder with me, so expect more podcasts on the subject soon. Yes, I can see it now. A warm fire, fresh trout cooked with wild garlic, nestling on a bed of sorrel, with wild mushrooms to accompany it, washed down with heather beer and counting the stars. Oh yes, that's the life for me.
This independent programme is produced and hosted by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.